Bedroom, singles, what do you?
Mostly two bedrooms, mostly two bedrooms. And these, in terms of the number of units and the square footage, they are all under the, determined by the zoning code. And I'm not asking for any.
How's the parking? How much are required to park there? Are you allowing 2 cars per unit?
Yes,
or 1
yes.
car per
There are
unit?
2 cars, and then some units has 3 cars.
In the property?
Yes.
Because after you're built and gone, 10 cars out there in the street from the same unit.
It's a concern,
Yes.
yes.
I believe these items have been discussed during the land use committee meetings. And so I'm waiting for the ruling from the historic resources in order to move on, because I don't know what to do right now, actually. But I'm just trying to just, keep this thing alive, because it is, a lot of efforts and so on. And I do believe that I'm providing building nice quality homes for the neighborhood, and which is, and that's my intention. I'm not trying to just come in and squeeze and push people aside. Some of the neighbors might have interpreted it differently, but that's absolutely not my intention to do it. So, and I believe what's on the agenda right now is basically making reference to the historical value, and that's and not to talk about the project from the afresh, talk about the pros and cons. That I think that falls under the authority of the land use committee. So if you just look at the item narrowly, so basically this says whether the board would make a statement to that effect. And what I'm saying is, since we don't have all the facts and the experts are still reviewing the projects, we should just follow up on it.
Point of clarification.
I want to remind the committee that,
I'm sorry.
as a land use member, that the committee, the community spoke on this. As a land use committee member, I hear the community speak to me, and I give back what I'm hearing. And
Right.
then there was overall a support for this project in the community.
Right. You're
Not the
speaking
city,
on
not
their behalf.
anybody else. That the community came out in force and said, we don't want this in our community.
Yeah.
So just so you know, as a land use community.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I just did hear from Angela, who was the chair of the committee at the time, and she is asking that it be tabled as well. And I don't want to continue with this discussion if we are going to table the item, number one. Number two, I think what we need from the committee is an actual report with all this information for the board, because when we're looking at this, we don't know what he's building, so we will work on getting reports from committees before we have to make a decision like this.
Okay.
So we're talking about tabling the item. Is there any objection to table the item?
No.
Okay. The item number 7 will be tabled. Item number 8 is the discussion and possible action on using a new vendor for website maintenance. This is really no longer applicable.
I have a clarification. Since we just tabled that, for the gentleman in the back, he needs to know.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes.
Yes, I know.
When is the date to be tabled, so.
Right, I don't know. I'm going to talk with Angela. She's on her way back, but I'm going to talk with her, and then, like I said, she has more knowledge on this and how long it's been in that approval phase.
Yes.
So, I'll talk to her, and then
That's fine.
we'll get that information
That's
too.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, so item number 8 is no longer applicable at this point, right, Capricia? We talked about it for a bit, but all our kinks have been worked out with Mr. Devandry for now.
For now, yes.
Okay, so we're not going to entertain this at this point. We're going to remove this item. Do we need a motion to remove it?
Up to the discretion of the chair, really.
I know, that's what I think, but I don't know if we're going based on past practice or what. but
Well, when you're tabling.
With the absence of standing rules, it makes things a little difficult.
What parking laws for it has. Marlene, point of clarification, when you table, you're tabling a motion. Since there's no motion, this item dies.
It died. No.
Yeah.
No. Unless somebody makes a motion.
just carry on with the agenda. I don't know what you're done.
But I don't want to have to put it on the next agenda.
So that's why.
You don't have to do anything.
Unless you have a rule that says that any agenda item you don't do it automatically carries over, then you guys set the agenda, right?
Yes.
Then the board sets the agenda.
Mhm.
That's the process.
We don't have
Right, that's
standing.
what I'm saying, so since you don't have a standing rule that requires that it be brought over, it's your discretion every time you set the agenda, what gets put on the agenda, right?
Right, so let's move on.
Okay, so yeah, that item is being removed. Item number 9, if there's no opposition, we're gonna table it because there's nobody here to speak on this. No opposition? Okay, item 10 is also no longer applicable. It's gonna be removed from the agenda. Same for item 11. No. Oh wait, creation of ad hoc committee to conduct research and make recommendation. No, what we do need is a ad hoc committee to write the standing rules, but this was to make recommendations to the bylaw committee.
You know, just my perspective, you're better.
That we don't,
I went that route because but that's just my perspective. I don't know.
we want to get an ad hoc.
That's what I know.
It's,
Or you can just delegate that.
it's not a motion right now to amend though.
Point of clarification to the chair.
The bylaw chair, no, we don't have a bylaw chair, that's on the agenda to reassign one, because Raymond resigned as the chair of the bylaw committee.
So that's vacant right now.
Bylaws, I mean, with
The standing rules?
since it's not, this is not assigned to the bylaws.
Yeah, it's not.
Yes, you guys as the board can delegate whoever you wish to put together your standing rules. So the one thing is on this agenda item, it kind of, rather than, you didn't write the agenda item in a way that says, you know, we will discuss and take action to delegate the writing of standing rules to blah, blah, blah. You specifically put creation of ad hoc committee. So you kind of boxed yourself in a little bit with that language. So I would say,
Last board had an ad hoc committee.
so you can either move this motion and then amend it. Well, you can make a motion based on this agenda item and amend it, but, you know, or you might just,
What would the amendment read like, amended?
It wouldn't be an amendment, but somebody, if we want to just discuss this item, somebody can make a motion to put in place an ad hoc committee to create standing rules.
but you don't want an ad hoc committee, right? You want to do the executive. Or what are you going to do?
Not the executive. Yeah, separate. The semantics what we're involved here, the right verbiage.
No, it's not semantics, it's making a
Use
decision.
the
of who-
right words.
No.
Fit.
No, it's making a decision of who you want to do the work. That's not a
But
semantics.
it's
that's a
the
decision.
title what we're having problems with.
Right, but the title
That's
means,
semantics, it uses the proper verbiage.
okay, I'm disagreeing with you, sir. You need to make a decision. Do you want an
Right.
ad hoc to do it? Do you want the bylaws committee to do it, or do you want the executive board to do it? You have at least three different choices,
Or do you want a combination of all three? Or,
which would basically be an ad.
Right, that would be an ad hoc.
Ad hoc, really what you need.
And that's what's on the agenda, so
If
you
the ad hoc
can't
makes
vote on that.
recommendations to the bylaws committee.
Okay,
And then the bylaws committee takes all that, whatever came from the ad hoc.
I'd like to see an ad hoc committee created for this.
I second the motion.
That's my opinion.
I second the motion.
It's not a motion.
I second the motion, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Motion's been seconded.
no.
I didn't make a motion.
Did you make it?
No.
Okay, I make the motion that we have an ad hoc committee, is that what we need?
Ad hoc committee for what? To create
Correct.
Read the words, to create,
standing rules.
But yeah, that's what we had at the last board,
and you
to
read
create the standing
words.
rules.
Okay, so Ruben has made a motion to create an ad hoc committee to create standing rules, to develop standing rules. direct standing room.
Whatever the
Whichever.
need is, what is our need?
All of the above.
Because there's two objectives to this statement. And it's saying bylaws committee and to create a standing rules ad hoc committee. So who's going to be appointed to it? You want it just to be an ad hoc committee?
Well, we have to appoint people to it.
Right, but it's saying with recommendations of the bylaw committee, which we don't even have a bylaw committee right now, so we're kind of running out of.
We do
We
have
have
a
a
bylaw.
committee, we just don't have a chair.
But you could amend, but once you move the motion, you could amend it to eliminate the bylaws
That's what
part
I'm saying,
of it.
it should be removed.
So dictate what our need is, and I'll move the motion.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna withdraw that motion. I think,
I second that. I remove my second.
okay, thank you.
Well, you have to.
But I would like to make a motion that the executive committee go ahead and create the standing rules.
But the thing is, you don't have that on the agenda, that's what I was saying.
Oh, I see.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
You were able to create an ad hoc, that's on the agenda.
Okay, well, I withdraw my motion, and it's up to the rest of the board if you wanna
So,
move it, a motion.
so I guess I just want to ask clarification, what is the purpose of the bylaws committee? I know the end, like,
The bylaws committee is to address the bylaws.
yeah, so if it's with the purpose of the bylaws to address, of the bylaws committee to address the bylaws, I would assume that would entail revisions, which entails standing rules.
Standing rules are separate, though, separate from bylaws.
Different organizations, the two organizations.
But so, okay, so our bylaws doesn't even, our bylaws committee won't handle the guiding procedures of our organization?
If you-
Our committee will-
If you read our bylaws, what the bylaw committee does, it doesn't talk about standing rules.
Yeah, I saw, it's really, it's a mess right now, it's too ambiguous, it really is.
The
Which is why
standing rules
we need
committee
standing rules.
will review the bylaws and will tweak whatever they feel they need to tweak, and then they'll present that to the bylaws committee. And the bylaws committee will have to approve or retweak or whatever it is. Whatever the recommendations are from the standing rules committee.
That's, you could do it that way, or you could establish an ad hoc that presents directly to the board. You have options,
Yes.
is what I'm saying.
That's kind of being redundant, if you have the ad hoc do all that work they're gonna do, and then have to go to the bylaws
Right,
committee, and
exactly,
then they're gonna rehash the same thing.
right,
And
exactly.
why do you, ad hoc?
And my concern is if the bylaw committee, I mean, they're still reviewing the rest of the bylaws. I mean, we've entertained one section, but there's still the rest, and if they make any changes, and we have standing standing rules can only address what's in the bylaws, right? It can't be anything that's, it could be,
The standing rules have to comply with the bylaws, in other words, they can't violate the bylaws, but the point of standing rules, well, one of them, I mean, there's many points to it, but one of the points is to address things that you don't want to put in your bylaws, things that you either want to make.
You wanna change.
Right, things that you want to have flexibility around changing, or things that would just junk up the bylaws too much with details. Like, for example, you know, something that I'm going to recommend when we work on standing rules, whoever you delegate, is I'm going to recommend a process for you guys to get a standardized report out of your committees, right? So that what you had tonight with the planning and land use, you would have a standardized form, that the board would have already reviewed the recommendations and, you know, who was in favor and who was opposed. And so you don't need all of that level of detail in your bylaws.
This is something that the,
Does that make sense?
yes, that makes a lot of
constituents
sense.
were addressing exactly those points.
Right, exactly.
I don't, how did they survive that? Okay, well, I'm gonna leave it up to the board. If you don't, if you guys wanna, if you think it's in the best interest now to create an ad hoc committee, then somebody can go ahead and make the motion to put it in place.
Back to discussion, and then we have more detail, and if you want to be involved, and then discuss. I think we should move it to
Well, it may delay getting us off of restricted, whatever it's called. The longer you prolong this
Oh,
thing.
is that part of our?
Yeah, that's the last requirement we need to meet to get off of it. And that means we can't spend any money on the community.
I'd like to
That's
make
what
a
I
motion,
want, spend money on them.
I'd like
Okay,
to,
next,
I'd like to make a motion to create, a bylaws,
standing room.
a standing rule ad hoc committee that will, propose standing rules to the,
Bylaws committee.
no, to the board,
To the
because,
executive board.
to the executive board. Can you read your motion again? I'd like to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee to, a standing rules ad hoc committee.
Standing rules ad hoc committee
To propose, to make recommendations to the executive committee. Or statute, or creating statute.
It really ties up the executive committee on bylaws, and they should be tied up on
I'm sorry, the
other
executive
matters
committee
of
for what?
the board.
Reconvene.
So, to create standing rules ad hoc committee, to make recommendations to the executive committee,
Yes.
so that's it, okay, so, to create,
That's the standing.
yeah, to
You
create
don't need a
standing rules
bylaw
ad hoc
committee.
committee to, make recommendations to the executive committee
Regarding standing.
regarding standing.
Second.
Second? So we have a motion to make an ad hoc committee to create standing rules to submit to the executive board. Public comment?
Can I have Mr. Scott Johnson, Anthony Manzano, and